Okay, for the past 3 weekends, I've been trying to read this book. However, I'll pick up the book, I'll read 1 or 2 pages, and then I immediately pick up my phone. So this weekend, I was like, you know what? I need a break. It's fine. I'll watch a movie instead. So I do the same thing. I try and I put a movie on to actually commit to watching a 2-hour-long movie. Same thing happens. I get in 10 minutes and I pick up my phone. And I get through the entire movie, but the credits are rolling and I'm like, did I even watch this movie, or was I half spent time on my phone, half I felt like I never got into the movie. 2017, that was when Netflix introduced the skip intro button. You know, the one they use when you are binge watching series? Yeah, that one. And autoplay, so automatically play the next episode, whether it was YouTube or Netflix, has existed since 2014. When you use Spotify, the algorithm that you've created a playlist and you've actually chosen the songs that you want there. But so you don't get off Spotify and have to go do the work. Once you reach the end of the playlist, Spotify just casually adds songs that you probably would have added yourself to this playlist. They call it curated playlist. Well, algorithmic curated playlist. TikTok's For You page serves you an abundance of videos that you probably would never search for yourself, but you actually enjoy watching. And all of these videos average under 45 seconds a clip. Now, if you're as old as me, I guess, you will remember that on the YouTube sidebar over here, you would scroll, but you would reach the end. There would be that many videos here. Now, you can kind of scroll forever for the amount of videos that are there. And every one of these things that I've mentioned here has kind of been built around the same idea. Get what you want before you have time to wait for it. I know that sounds weird, but there's no waiting involved in consuming more content. And in the industry, they call that gap friction. Reduce the friction that the user has to do in order to get to the next thing so that they don't leave the platform. And that's why they're designed to specifically remove that friction, which in turn makes the experience smoother and keeps you watching. In September 2025, researchers from Griffith University published a meta-analysis in the Psychological Bulletin, and this meta-analysis consisted of 21 studies and 98,000 participants altogether across 5 different continents. And they were looking at what does short-form video do to the brain over time. And what they found, the more short-term videos that people watch, so Instagram Reels or TikTok Shorts, was directly correlated with the attention span of staying with something that didn't immediately reward them. And I think we can all resonate with this. We're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I feel it too. And then the worse they got at keeping their attention on something that doesn't give instantaneous rewards, the more they'd reach for short-form video. And thus, we have this negative feedback loop. And the problem was that this loop kind of just got tighter and tighter, if you can understand. It doesn't just stop at one point to be like, okay, no. It just got worse and worse and worse, which is kind of scary. And I think if you look at yourself 3 years ago, before short-term video was maybe such a big part of your life, you could probably say that you could pay attention for a lot longer than you can now, if you are someone that consumes short-term video. So inhibitory control is the capacity to override an impulse in favor of something that will pay off in the future. It's the thing that keeps you reading this book when it gets, a little bit boring or a little bit hard to read. Or the capacity to still engage in a conversation where you're either bored or you're uncomfortable. Or, to sit with something where you're learning and it really just hasn't clicked yet, but you're like, you know what, I gotta finish this. And I look at myself, I don't know, a few years ago, studying bachelor's degrees, and I felt like I could sit for hours trying to figure out these maths problems. But now, I doubt that I can. And what those researchers found which is kind of the same thing as this short-term video explanation, is that the reduced inhibitory control. So you effectively can't really stick with things. You select smaller things or shorter content. And then the shorter content has a negative effect and it affects your inhibitory control, so you become worse at it. And then you get this cyclical thing that's happening. Gloria Mark at UC Irvine has been tracking how long people sit on a phone, a particular screen on the phone, without changing it. In 2004, so that's 22 years ago, it was 2.5 minutes. By 2023, it was 47 seconds. And 5 independent studies between 2014 and 2020 confirmed round about the same numbers. And the crazy thing about this technology, or this rapid technological development in the short-term content realm of things, is that it wasn't the intention to effectively break everybody's attention spans, effectively making it more difficult for people to read books or watch feature films. But it was kind of the side effect of this like entertaining content that they produced, because we spent hours a day like in that content where the brain receives that like a gambling reward, and our brains just start expecting that, and that type of speed becomes the baseline. It becomes the norm. And I think this is obviously a talked about topic all over the internet. There's nothing new here. I'm not revealing anything amazing. I think it's just a personal anecdote where I was like, oh my gosh, I think it's actually reached a really bad point now. And I actually don't know what to do about it. As it currently stands, TikTok has over 1 billion active users. Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, Netflix autoplay. These have kind of become the default texture of most of our lives, whether it's what you do the first thing in the morning and I guess, the last thing you do before you go to bed. And the things that require that inhibitory control, like learning an instrument, passing the first few months, I guess, where they are incredibly frustrating and nothing sounds good, or finishing a novel that takes 3 chapters to actually come to something interesting, and staying in a conversation with a stranger for long enough such that there is even a chance for a connection to be formed, or for you to actually learn something from someone. These interactions or these learnings and things still happen, but it seems like we don't spend enough time with them anymore. We kind of get bored before we even get to the end, or get to the good parts, or get to the part where we can actually learn something, because these things didn't feel worth it anymore when I can get dopamine or I can get entertainment somewhere else, or there's some random message on the group that I just need to open my phone, and then I'm on Instagram, and then all of these things kind of spiral out of control. And I think it's something that a lot of people joke about and say this kind of stuff, but I think it's actually becoming quite scary and dangerous. Maybe I'm blowing this out of proportion, but I'm a little bit worried for myself and for everyone else. Like, it's normal now that we just do this, but we feel like we've still experienced life without it, therefore we could control it if we wanted to. The question is, can we actually control it if we want to? And that's what I've been struggling to answer, because I don't know if I can. And I think one of the craziest things is that there's an entire generation, so those people are probably born in the 2000s, where this speed, this instantaneous reward is the baseline. Where, like, my book is potentially not a problem, or reading the newspaper will probably never happen for people these days, because it's just, some of it is boring and you don't want to go through all of it. But I feel like when I was a kid, my dad used to sit and read the newspaper every morning when we had breakfast. I don't know if we have the attention span to do that anymore. And it's just going to be the new norm, because it's very difficult to go back to that. And I think it begs a bigger question, like, is this good? Is this better than what it was? Because we always want to be moving forward in life to a better society, a better thing. is this? Like zoom out a little bit. That's kind of where I'm coming with this analysis. I don't think it is. I don't know. I'm very fascinated as to how kids are able to study in school these days with a phone like right next to them, and like the attention to switch back to the phone. I would be fascinated to see that. Anyway, I'll check you guys on the next one. You probably didn't even get to the end here because you switched to your phone. Oh, I got a comment that this is not ADHD friendly content, and I was like, yeah, girl, you are so right. I am not giving you flashy images and all this kind of stuff, so making it through here, you clearly do not have the same problem as the rest of the world in terms of attention spans, so appreciate you.